translate it for us. So it's an honor to be here. I never expected to be here in France speaking about this, even though the Pyrenees also comprises a part of France, of southern France. So what am I going to speak about? This looks so... It's so attractive, right? Yeah, magical practices in nature in the Pyrenees. Oh, that must be super hardcore. Well, yeah. Well, yeah, that's the point. But this lecture I'm going to do tonight is, I intend to destroy some assumpted truths, things that we just repeat again and again until we are convinced that they are true. Of course, this is my thesis. Of course, this can be refuted, and I will be glad to discuss it with anybody. But please wait until I finish, because if not, this will be endless. And then you buy me a beer, I can talk about whatever you want. Okay, so I decided to talk about this concept here, Metzineria, okay, because it's sometimes confused with witchcraft, but at the same time uses something which is intoxication as a gate to transgression. You will see that the way I conceive witchcraft, not only I, but the authors I follow, goes a little bit different from what normally is assumed as witchcraft. Again, this is one thesis, one point of view I will be glad to discuss. So, I assume that we have all our ideas about this, but why I'm speaking about this is because this is my path, okay? This is a practice that I have developed through time and through lots of experiences and lots of research. And this is like personal gnosis. But of course, I'm very rationalistic, as we all are right now. Nowadays, it's impossible to escape rationalism. So I use a lot of historical facts, okay, to support my thesis. If not, to me, it's not valid anymore. So, what is it about? The Metzineria, these things I am talking about. You will see that I say something like intoxication and poison are the crossroads where the norm and the transgression converge. Intoxication, the way in which we perceive intoxication, is now only used for drug intake, but there was a time when it was much more than that. And there was a time when this was conceived in a way, and later conceived in a totally different way. It was demonized, etc., etc. Nowadays, when you think about European witchcraft, traditional witchcraft, you think about this kind of things: intoxication, Metzineria, poison making, flying ointments. But this, in origin, my thesis is at least that this had a totally different origin. The both things, Metzineria and witchcraft, poison making and witchcraft, converged in one, but originated as separate. What was the thing that linked them together was intoxication, okay? Now you're like, your brain is exploding. I can see the fume from here. But let me tell you about this from the beginning. We have to go way back into antiquity to the origin of the concept of Metzina. The origin of the concept of Metzina, I find it in another totally different concept, which is the concept of pharmakos. Okay? Doctor, well, actually, the father of medicine, of modern anatomy, called Herophilus, said in the 2nd century BC that drugs are the hands of gods. When we say drugs, we mean a lot of things. We don't mean alcohol or marijuana, or we also mean medicine. We also mean poisons in the... What? Yeah, well, among other most things, yeah. But it's it's a very complex construct of the idea of the drug. Nowadays, we give it a totally different significant, okay? It's like a divine bad thing. But in origin, the idea of drug comprises a lot of aspects in culture. The concept of pharmakos and pharmakon illustrates this idea perfectly. Here we have a ritual of pharmakos. You can see a person, well, two people, killing this guy who doesn't look like he's happy right now. Okay, and this was a typical ceremony used in ancient Greece to expel the community from disease and epidemics. They decided one person had to go, and they killed a slave or a prisoner or a persona non grata, okay, and just sacrificed them in order to restore physical, spiritual balance in both worlds. An action in this world, in the tangible world, an action which is of aggression, a trauma, a breaking action, has its significance in the other world, okay? This is the pharmakos. This is where pharmacy comes from. Imagine, we're not talking about you ingesting something. We're talking about how the two worlds collide in one, the tangible and the intangible one. Okay, as time went by, then we see this. We use the concept of pharmakon to describe both the action and the substance that purges the evil, okay, that takes away disease. The pharmakon is the thing that restores the balance which is lost, okay? It is both a ritual and the substance. When human sacrifices are not that well seen, because, you know, you cannot spend your life just sacrificing people as much as you hate them. So you have to find other ways to purge evil and epidemics. And as people become more civilized, then they use substances. The substances will be called pharmakon. But the substance that solves the problem is at the same time the substance that causes the problem. Okay? This is a very mysterious idea. This is not a scientific idea. This is a mystical, spiritual idea. But we, nowadays, when we think about pharmacy, we think about pharmacy, right? I need one pill just to cure my headache, and then balance is restored, or what I think balance is, okay? So, the people... the people who took care of this, of the pharmakos, those guys over here, right? Those guys over here, you may see them as hitmen, okay, like killers, sacrificers, but we would call them pharmakeos, okay? These are the deliverers of the pharmakos. They restore balance with actions that take place in the tangible world, but have a consequence in the intangible world. These people are both sorcerers, herbalists, sacrificers. I don't know. They have many roles in society. They can be well seen or badly seen, but their role is to restore balance in a way that no one else dares to do that, because it demands a lot of yourself, okay? So, this pharmakeos, okay, that would later be both the priest, okay, a priest, a religious priest, a druid perhaps, but also a sorcerer or a doctor. These guys have a role in the community, and they are accepted, more or less, for this. So, this idea of the pharmakos and the pharmakon is the root for the mezzina. For the Pyrenean mezzina, of course, I am totally aware that we're talking about ancient Greece, and now I will be making a big jump to medieval Europe, medieval Pyrenees. I totally understand there are some concepts that change, the cultural background changes, but understand me here, it's very difficult to trace a concept without, I don't know, just jumping a bit in time. I just decided that it would be clearer if I post this idea of the pharmacos and then introduce the mezzina to you. Let's see if you agree with me. So, this is the Pyrenees. This is where I live. This is here. Okay, you are over there. Okay, so the Pyrenees is the crossroads. The Pyrenees is the natural crossroads. But this is not an easy crossroads, as all crossroads are. It's very steep mountains, very adverse weather, very fucked up community, very fucked up transportation methods, very fucked up way of receiving information. So, as I understand it, and as most anthropologists will say, modernity didn't arrive to the Pyrenees until the 20th century. Dramatic pause, wait a minute. So, this is good, in a way, because this means that lots of folklore customs endure through time. And this is bad, in a way, for the people who live in there. Okay, it's never good when modernity doesn't come. So, what does it mean that the idea of this pharmacos, this pharmacon, was really well preserved in that rural communities, in all mountain communities? I'm talking about the Pyrenees, but you could say this about the Alps as well. You could say this about the Apennines as well. So all mountain communities, as well as they are closed, really closed, and really conditioned by weather, by climate, by their own spirits, they tend to preserve the folklore really well, even though they mask it with other things, right? So, medieval, look at this. Yeah, this is my town. It's so nice, right? And this is another place, Navarra, which is totally, it's the same, but it's different. And I didn't include here pictures of the Pyrenees of France because you know it, the Pyrenees of Andorra because it's unexistent. I didn't say that. Okay. So, medieval Pyrenean communities had a very ancient idea of evil and epidemics. People didn't think that evil or epidemics, illnesses, were caused only by a microbe that kills you because you don't see it, and then you have a virus because they don't know about this. They believed that epidemics, evils, could be caused by unnatural causes, by evil eye, by maleficium, evil magic, hatred, melancholy. There's people who died of melancholy, of sadness. Imagine, right? And still, our grandparents say that. No, he died of sadness. Okay, it's a very mythical way of conceiving the world. But this was kept like that because people still believed that magic had something to do with the physical stability, the physical balance, or the tangible balance of the community. Nature could be harmed by unnatural forces, by unseen forces. Maybe because they wanted to cause chaos, but maybe because somebody had decided to, raise some demons and attack you. You never know. You just looked at somebody weirdly and then they curse you. It's typical. So, as long as people belief that epidemics, illnesses, problems can be caused in the intangible world, you need people to take care of this that are also able to go through worlds, to go between worlds. And we still have the pharmakeus, no? Until very recently. We needed people in the community who could heal you not only with this plant that I know that it cures your stomach pains, but also I could do a special ceremony to you and heal you somehow. This is not witchcraft. Witchcraft is what causes evil. Okay. Okay. Other things that happened here is this. I just love it. I don't see if you can see this very well. Here, there's the flower, okay? And here, there's an amazing solstice fire celebration, which, of course, now is called St. John's Eve. Through Catholicism, through very stark, rural Catholicism, lots of folkloric pagan customs were preserved. This is why it's so fun. When you see anti-Catholics being like, yeah, witchcraft is totally anti-Catholic. Yeah, but you need Catholics to preserve up to some degree, some of the beliefs. Look at Protestantism. They erased everything they could. And sometimes this is a bit sadder, okay? I don't know. I have never lived in a Protestant country myself. So, you see, here people believe that if you nail this to the door, the evil spirits, the witches, will be scared away. Why? Because when a witch, by night, because a witch is a night creature, comes to your house to steal your baby and kill you, and kill your cattle, and kill your baby, and cause storms, they will see this flower, which resembles the sun, and they will start counting all the small petals of the flower, and then daylight will come out and they will be, fuck man, I have to go. This is what they thought it happened. Of course, I do have one of these in my home. Nothing bad ever happens there, just, yeah, touch some wood. And it's a necessary thing. Everybody believes in this. No one questions this thing, even though they may not be Catholic or pagan or whatever. They know this is insurance against evil spirits, because the belief in evil spirits is stronger than anything else. Also, this, under the name of St. John's fires, is keeping a very old tradition of keeping the sunlight and everything. By doing this kind of rituals, people, the community, tries to restore balance in nature, okay? They try to do something good for nature. They try to contribute. They try to protect themselves. But their protection is not like calling 911. No, they put this super cool flower on the door and they just waited for it to work their magic. Or they go down from a mountain with a torch, carrying a torch. This is a very impressive ritual. I recommend you to see it. And then they go into the town square, they burn this thing, and then they pick up the ashes and wash their doors with the ashes. Very impressive. This is because they believe that there is something that breaks the balance. The pharmacos, both this medicine and poison, is as necessary as it is bad, okay? I know it's like I'm deviating from the topic, but I'm going back there, don't worry. What I'm really trying to say here is that the Pyrenees, the mountain communities, I'm talking about the Pyrenees because I'm from there, or because I researched this, but in the mountain communities, very rural communities, have kept the same ideas that brought to the birth of the crime of witchcraft and poison making, because it's in their system, okay? So, if they believed this, how comes that one day they decided to start burning people for practicing witchcraft or for practicing sorcery? So let's see. Okay. So, the mezzina, the idea of this whole lecture, comes from this, the pharmakos, both the remedy, the cure, the process of restoring the balance in the intangible by doing actions in the tangible world, okay? But the mezzina, the word mezzina comes from medicus, from medicus. You know, you have something similar in France? Okay, the physician, okay? A person who knows about medicine. In origin, the mezzina meant both the medicine and the poison that killed you, okay? So a person, when was a metziner, he could also both kill you or heal you, depending on whatever he wanted to do, you know, or if he was good enough or not. So, and what is it? Why is it so? Because nature is so good. Because, oh, this plant could not hurt me at all. Never. The pharmakos, the mezzinas we're talking about, are more than just medicinal plants. Rural communities, mountain communities have very special plants there. I mean, we now know there is rosemary. We now know there is thyme. We now know there is lavender and sage, but there are many other plants around us that we don't know. Well, these people who lived in the mountain had to know every single plant if they wanted to survive. Because sometimes this baby here, okay, it's fantastic liquor. Very good for diarrhea as well. But you cannot eat a lot of this, of the pits inside, because it has a lot of cyanide, okay? You cannot, well, if you want to die, it's not my problem. This guy over here, who is extremely poisonous, was used to heal heart afflictions. If you had a heart problem, you could use this. Of course, the dosage makes the poison. Paracelsus said that. People knew that. These people who knew the pharmakos, the mezzina, knew the dosage, either because they had tried and failed and killed a grandma, you know, sometimes, but sometimes because they knew, because it was something that's local knowledge, and they are only just recipients of that knowledge. So, these medzines and medzineras know these substances. These little babies over here as well. Okay, it's like, oh, this is a weed, we're for nothing. This is a typical way that we say now. No? It's like, the rosemary is good for your blood flow and everything, but this one does nothing. Well, I mean, it does things. It's a purgative as well. It's also toxic in high dosages, but nowadays, we regard it as useless because it does nothing evidently good. And this one over here, ooh, don't touch this one, you're gonna die. So this one is the most, yeah, you're gonna die. Sorry to break it down for you. This one is the most poisonous plant from Europe. I took the pictures in a very special place. Actually, I have to give you a bit of background information. A place where it's said to be one of the famous spots for the witches' Sabbaths. Okay, it's at 2,000 meter altitude, so it's not like easy stuff to find. This one over here, a 0.01 milligrams of the active principle can kill you. So yeah, it's a fairly toxic plant, but people use them for veterinarian medicine in the towns. They give it to sheep, and then they cure them diseases and parasite infections. I wonder how many sheep they had to kill to know the dosage for this one. It's like something I think about at night. Okay. So, the plants that we're surrounded with in rural mountain communities and also in Mediterranean coastal communities. Nowadays, we disregard them as useless because we don't know them. But at a time when everything and nothing was medicine, because everything was necessary, because you didn't have a doctor by you at your home, you needed people who knew how to experiment with this. You needed people who had an experience about this pharmacos, and not only use them by, hey, okay, open the mouth, I'm going to put this thing in your mouth and kill you. No, not only like this, but also, I don't know, perhaps this person would take this and hang it on your door and say, okay, you will be fine tomorrow. Oh, now we burn some hyssop on the door, and then you will be fine tomorrow. Something else, like you put some elder, I don't know the name in a door, and then evil spirits will be out. Okay. The pharmacos, the mezzina, works at every level of existence. These people who know this work at every level of existence. It is logical then when a time comes to prosecute those ideas that lead you to transgression, these people will be totally the first to blame, right? So, these are also another typical cause of illnesses. Spirits, evil eye, look at this old hag. He fucked up the carriage, you know, I'm really, really bad person. And also, when you start doing necromancy, sometimes you cannot control it, and then appears the guy, and, you know, typical thing. These are the causers of your problems in rural, uncivilized communities. But at the same time, this gives you a very deep spectrum of how the world works. It's not like cause and effect, but it's a multiplicity of worlds working together. And you have to be clever enough to understand this and to go into all worlds when you are healing. So the mezzine is a primal idea. It's a necessary idea in the rural mountain communities. Then what happened? What went wrong? I would say that during early Middle Ages, things went more or less okay. But as the Middle Ages evolved and we enter the late Middle Ages and the start of the Renaissance, the Illustration period, there is a big, deep change of symbolic order. This means that things are not as they were, as they used to, and the things that were not good or bad are totally bad, and the things that are good are totally good. So dualism increases very harshly. And all those things that are suspicious of being evil are undoubtedly evil. I think it's here. Yeah. The mezzina, I told you, was a normal word. You can use it for a medicine, for a poison. Then, when do we start seeing this as a bad thing? It's in the 12th century, okay? You can see the first references to mezzina. Let me read this for you. Poison making, this mezzina, is related, it starts being related to being a bad person, right? It says that dangerous men and women who are herbalists or sorcerers, okay, sorcerers is not witches, important here. Sorcerer is conjurer, okay? And it starts to say, beware of these people, because these people are evil. Yeah, no problem here, not Satan or anything, just evil people, you know. Sometimes they give you bad drugs and they'll kill your baby or something, no problem. Then, some cases start appearing. It's in 1328, true. Joanna la Cristiana is actually from a French town called La Bastide Saint-Clarens, was charged with being poisoning people and being a bad herbalist. Bad herbalist. So you could be a bad herbalist and poison people. Now you could also be, you could be a good person and heal people, or a bad person and kill people. This possibility was unheard of before this change of symbolic order. Now it's when we start seeing this. Curiously enough, during this time, we start seeing something which is very suspicious. There starts to appear schools of herbalists and pharmacy. And then a person called King James the First said that everyone in Aragon, Pyrenees of Aragon, said the following thing: everyone who wants to practice medicine has to undergo an examination. People who don't undergo this examination and course will be banned from practicing medicine. Now you're making something official of something that was a totally normal practice in every community. It's very cool in the cities when you have those schools, the schools in Barcelona and in Zaragoza. These are the typical schools for apothecaries and herbalists. But then I live in the middle of nowhere and I have no way to go and pay for this course on herbalism. So and my family is dying. So I'm going to keep practicing that herbalism I knew from my grandmother, because it is a tradition, it's very well kept in the community. And apart from this, perhaps this illness is not caused by a virus or air, it's caused by an evil spirit. Because the new schools were very much in the rationalistic sense, while people, the ways of seeing the world in rural communities were still in the primitive world, okay? Everything collapses in the 15th century, when the first civil law against witchcraft is proposed. It happens in my town. This is why I moved there. It happens in 1424 in the Ordinacions de les Valls d'Àneu. It says the following thing. You will freak out with this one. Some people go at night with the witches to the goat of Biterna, and they take him as their lord, pay homage to them, denying the name of God, going forth by night, removing little children from their mother's side, and kill them. They give them gatirnons or bushels. They give them mazzinas in various ways. Ooh, what happened here? Why is this here? Why now we're talking about witches? And why they do this thing of poisoning people? This law, which is the first civil law, there were papal bulls. They were like religious texts saying, hey, there's people who go by night and they get out of their bodies and just deal with the devil and do this thing like that. But here, we are having a big innovation at all levels together. We're saying that people, human people, not evil spirits, cause your problems. The people who cause their problems are people who live in your community, are people who know about things, are people who know about this thing over there. Those people who know about Mazzinas go with the witches. The witches are not people. Look at the first sentence over there. The witches are evil spirits. The witches are night spirits. I say evil because I'm a post-Catholic person. But if I was a true pre-Christian person, I would say night spirits. Night spirits, the spirits of the dead, the spirits who you find in the other world, are necessary spirits to keep the balance in this world, because without dark, there is no light. But now, with the change of the symbolic order, everything that is dark and nocturnal is bad, okay? This big thing happens in this text, 1424. It's quite late. You tend to imagine that witchcraft was something a bit earlier. But no, this is the first civil text that says, hey, there's people in your town doing this thing, killing your people, killing your babies, killing your cattle, causing storms, giving them gatirnons or bushels, which are this thing over there, the ganglies, inflamed ganglia, and like with the bubonic plague, this kind of things, they're swollen, everything. So this is a total game changer. You were afraid of something that you could not see, and this is why you nail a flower to your door, and this is why you burn things in St. John's Day. But now, this person has a name and a surname, and this person communes with the devil in the shape of a he-goat. Now, the law, the authorities make witchcraft a tangible crime. We lose totally the idea, the original idea of witchcraft. This is important to me. I wanted to explain this a bit more for you because I think, I don't know, perhaps somebody has to say that. Witchcraft in origin does not appear as a human condition. Witches are those spirits, bodiless entities who go by night to come from the other side, and then they cause misfortune. The causing of misfortune is not to be seen as something evil, is to be seen as something necessary. Without death, there is no beginning. The spirits of the dead are always honored and worshipped because they return fertility to the soil. So, we still, when we say that people are witches, we are still using the same language of the Inquisition and this law over there, saying, hey, yes, I'm a witch. So, oh, okay, so you're a discarnate spirit going by night. Glad to meet you. Let's meet in the Sabbath or something. It's okay, it's a transgressive word, but at the same time, we shouldn't lose the idea that this word englobes a certain amount of folkloric knowledge of the other world. When you humanize the witch, you humanize all the other world. You need to make the witch a fearful thing. You need to make the witch an intangible thing. You need to make the witch the thing that you're scared of by night. Because without this, there is no magic. My point of view. So, what went wrong? Let me tell you about this story. I love this one. Margarida Rugal, this woman, it's a bit, well, how many years? 120 years after the ordinations, the text before was passed. This person was judged. This is a very famous case in my area. This person was judged for being a witch who was a doctor and did medicinas and medicines, but now she does that in secret. This person was tried for witchcraft because she poisoned a baby, because she killed a baby by mistake. This person was a famous healer in the community, but at the moment when she made a mistake, then she was tried for witch. She was a doctor in the origin, but then, you know, she killed a baby, so she's totally evil and made a pact with the devil, you know, it's logic. It had to be. So, the trial against Margarida Rugal is so fun, because she's there like, yes, I gave this thing to this child and he died, you know. And then one person appears and he said, I want to say something. Yeah, well, this woman here gave me a medicine and she healed me. And the jury, which is not the Inquisition, is local people, your neighbors, said, okay, so she cured you, then she must be a witch. You're not escaping from this, honey. You're so dead, you cannot imagine. This woman died, of course, in this castle in Sarthe. You can still visit the ruins of this. You can go make a curse or something. I don't know. I go there sometimes. Even if you knew good medicine, it was useless. You were a witch. You had become the bearer of a knowledge. You knew too much. You had to be erased. You had to be destroyed from the community. So what happens when you start killing everyone who knows about medicine? You end up dying because you have no doctors in your area, right? So you have to invent something else to prosecute. Because now what were the hands of gods were now a gift from the devil. So if you start killing everyone who dominates the hands of gods, you end up having a lot of epidemics in your community. And your babies still die, and your cattle still dies, and the storms keep coming. It's a bit fucked up. So you have to invent something. What were the hands of the gods, many, were now the gift of this devil. This devil gives you knowledge, gives you the power to transgress, like he gave in the shape of a serpent to Eve. Okay, this guy over there, the devil, said, "Hey, eat this and be wise with me," and she was, "Oh, okay." What can go wrong? And there is a problem. When you say that this is a gift from the devil, you're saying that all natural knowledge, all natural things are evil. This is problematic at various levels, as you can imagine. Right now, we're still thinking like this. We will talk about this later. But is everything that is natural, everything that is not dominated by the moral discourse is necessarily evil. This is not caused by Christians, because this happens in the 15th century and the 16th century. This is caused by rationalism. This is really fucked up. And we are the sons of the rationalism, and the medieval ages were so dark. Oh, so dark. And they're like, oh. Oh yeah, now we're much better. What am I gonna tell you? So, you have to invent something else. And when you invent something else, you just really go crazy. You just go over the top. You're like, oh, how can I invent something? You get something that was already known. You get something that people could give an explanation to their problems. And you get something that only some people can know. You're killing all your doctors, okay? So you have to invent a new accusation. And the new accusation is this one: the flying ointments, the witches' ointments. At the beginning, the law that we saw, it says, the devil teaches them how to make medicinas. But as time went by, 2 centuries later, what we see is that the devil teaches them how to make an ointment so that they go to the Sabbath. Okay, they fly and they go to the Sabbath. And then they kill people with this ointment. Yeah, they get this ointment and they put you in your eyes and then you die. Okay, what an amazing thing to have. I wonder what it is. I wish it could be both or something. The problem here is that it is working at so many levels again. The idea of the ointment is a total recovery of the pharmacos again, at so many levels. Now we had lost, at the Metzina thing, we had lost something. We had lost the intoxication thing. When we talk that drugs are the hands of gods, we say that drugs as a medicine are the hands of gods. You take this and you feel well. Drugs as a poison are the hands of gods. You take this and you die. You kill the evil here. And drugs as the hands of gods, they give you transgression. out-of-body experiences, fantastic illumination. Okay, as we go by, we lose this sense of the transgression, the entheogenic experience. And we recover it with this thing. So, the witch's ointment is a conjunction of three things, to me at least. Historical precedence, which is anesthesia. You know, anesthesia wasn't invented until the 18th century. So when they had to do like a trepanation in your brain, you had to be a bit like dizzy or dull, because if not, you would just die of pain. It's very unnecessary. So they use it narcotics, Solanaceae plants from the nightshade family, because they are natural narcotics. Mandragora, belladonna, henbane, opium. You see where I'm going? Then you have, and now you tell me, oh, so there were entheogens in the Pyrenees? There were people who were getting high with these plants in the medieval ages? It's like, no, but they knew that some plants, if you take too much of this, they give you anesthetic feel. And so, for example, in my area, when a baby is growing their teeth and it's crying, they give you an opium flower. So you chew on this. Of course, the baby's so calm, the baby's totally high, right? Right? So, this baby is not hallucinating, I hope, I don't know. This would explain how people in the mountains are like this. But this is a total entheogenic usage, but totally involuntary. You know, it happens. So the problem here is also that the idea of the ointment was not a plant ointment in the beginning. The first recipes of the flying ointment, of the witch's ointment, are not made with belladonna and everything. The first recipe we ever find is made with baby's fat and bat's blood. Super bad, ooh. This is an accusation that didn't happen against witches, it happened against these guys over there. The Vaudois, Albigensians and Cathars. This is not a witch's illustration. These guys over here are heretics, kissing this boy's anus and flying over there with their brooms and everything. This is the image of a treaty against Vauderie, Albigensians and Vaudesians. Curious, huh? Because witchcraft is a construct. Witchcraft takes every idea of evil and mixes it together and throws it in the late medieval Europe. So, the ointment is all this. The ointment has a rational, scientific explanation, narcotics and anesthetics. It has also a folkloric explanation because people knew about plants, but it also has theoretical and fantastic explanation made by the church, the authorities of the church. Bear in mind here that the idea of using baby's fat and bat's blood to anoint yourself was not invented by Christians, was invented by Romans when they were persecuting Christians. Okay, so you know, every time when you hate somebody, you just say, hey, he makes ointments with baby's fat. You know, it's the best thing to spread the hate. So text somebody, say, he's making an ointment with baby fat. This person's so bad, man. Nobody can be worse than this. So this was the typical accusation by the Romans when they were trying to prosecute the new Christians. They were like, yeah, and they eat a baby, and they drink the blood of their master. Yeah, and they put the baby in bread, in flour, and then they eat it. Oh, it's amazing, so bad. Evil people, right? And now, once the Christians go into power, they do the same thing about the heretics. Jewish people, oh, so bad. They eat babies, and they anoint themselves with baby's fat. Oh, and witches as well, and heretics too. Oh, people just love baby fat. It's just like something. Oh, it's good for the skin. um, so, the first thing, this historical precedent. I just want to tell you about this. The historical precedent is called the soporiferis medicamentis. Okay, the soporifer medicines, which I told you about, this nightshade and everything. All the plants that fall into this category will be bad plants, witches plants, evil plants. Like, you like mandrake because you're a bad person. You like belladonna because you're a bad person, because this gets you high and you go to hell, and that's it. It's like all the herbs that were totally known and used during antiquity and during the early Middle Ages as narcotics will be bad. In fact, one of the first laws passed by a pope, which is the Summus Desiderantis Affectibus, I don't know the name of this pope, he banned from, being witch and everything, but he also banned the use of cannabis. I'm talking about cannabis in the Western Europe in the late medieval ages. So imagine, people knew about this. It must have been fun. The problem here is another problem to me. The first mention ever made to a witch's ointment is here. It's super late. It's 36 years after the first law. To me, it's very late. Okay, when a time when European information travels so fast as it did, even if you don't believe this, it did travel fast. The first mention to this is this kind, and they say. The text says, with a certain fat, people fly and they become witches. Again, they are not witches. They become so by anointing them certain fat, and then they fly. Where do they fly, these guys? They fly to the Sabbath, to the encounter with the devil, because the devil is not in here. It's not in here. It's like, okay, it's somewhere else. It's somewhere you cannot control. It's somewhere in the other world. So you really have to fly really, really far to get to know the devil, because the devil is not here. The devil is in the other side. He died. The devil is angry. Sorry, master. Shouldn't have said that. Okay. So, it says that, no? With certain fats, as people say, they make ointments and they become witches. So still, we're not thinking that people are witches. We're thinking that people become witches during a certain time. It's a very limited time. And then during the morning, they are the normal people, your normal neighbor. This is pretty scarier, because everybody can be a witch. In fact, the first trials against witches in the Pyrenees are not against women, are against men and children, boys. These people have a lot of power. They have inherited money. They have inherited land. So you have to kill these people, Because who led the processes, the trials against witches? Witches. Not the Inquisition. The Inquisition goes where the money is. The Jewish people, or the Cathars, or the Albigensians. These guys over there doing whatever they do, kissing the devil's butt is not interesting to me. So, who tries you? Your neighbors. And there is no one in the world that hates you more than your neighbor. And that you hate more than your neighbor, right? So, imagine the kind of animosity that was there, right? You're trying to find people in your community that deal with the devil, and they make this fat thing, and they go to this place in the peak of a mountain, 2,000-meter high, super inaccessible, and they fly there, and they find together the master, and they give them the children, and it's a pretty scary picture. Of course, if I was living there, I would totally be scared of these people. Of course, we would all be scared of these people because you cannot know who they are because they only do this by night, you know. It's a really shitty thing. So, it's very fun because the ointment recipe changes. At the beginning is baby's blood, baby's fat and bat's blood. But as the times go by, you need to find a rational explanation. So you try to invent something new. And you go to this, the soporiferous medicament is the narcotics and everything. It's very fun when you look at the trials against people who were accused of making ointments. Look at this too. 1 year difference, totally different areas in the Pyrenees, super, super distant one from another. The first one is a man, the second one is an old lady. And it's always human bone. And then you put hellebore. Hellebore is a toxic plant from the Pyrenees, which I use personally for arthritis, okay, for articulations, but it's a very poisonous plant. And for this woman, because there was no hellebore in her area, so they said, yeah, but toads, you know? Also gets you high, so maybe. And again, arsenic, which is everybody's kitchen's filled with arsenic, and human bones, which is super, super evil. You see, you start incorporating botanics, ethnobotanics into the picture. You start doing very crooked things, right, to justify your prosecution. So, I don't know how you said that here. The ointments that make people fly and the ointments that kill people just prove the contact with the devil. This man over here said that this ointment, he used it with his friends and followers to go to the Sabbath. This woman over here said she used this one to kill people. Okay? Look at the difference is very, very, very small. The thing is that the pharmacos, the medicina, is developing in strange ways. People, the folklore, common people need an explanation to why these guys there, who are evil people, go away by night and fly and have super experiences, okay? Because we're turning into a more rational and illustrated approach. The ointment is a contact with the devil. I mean, you can be a healer, a curandero. You can be a doctor, and it's okay, because the community needs this. But the ointment, making an ointment is so bad. Nobody can save you from this one, because it's totally bad. Even if you use it for the Sabbath thing, or if you use it to kill people, it's inherently bad. So, what happened then? There is a time, very fun. There is a time after 1550, super late again, when let me quote you here, no more mentions of an ointment are found in Pyrenean witch trials. They disappear. And this is all attributed to a text called Formicarius by Johannes Nieder, published in 1475. No, it's not here, okay. This text said that all flight to the Sabbath was not made by the ointment. It's because the demons trick people and lie them, and they possess their bodies, and they go to the Sabbath, you know. It's impossible. The ointment cannot do this thing. This is just a superstition, okay? This explanation, which is like, okay, but 2 days later you were saying the totally contrary thing. It serves a very rationalistic approach. The church was trying to stop some degree of superstition, because with superstition, you still believe in folkloric ideas, okay? So you have to be a rational person, even if you're in the Vatican, because you are so progressive, you know? You are so progressive. Everything ointment thing, the flight to the Sabbath, is just an hallucination powered by the devil. There is no such thing. People, don't worry. You cannot fly out of your body. No, 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 no. The devil is just possessing you temporarily. Just will kill you, and then it will be over. Don't worry. Just burn you at the stake, and fine solution. The devils and not medicinas, the pharmacos, is no longer important. Now everything is a work of the devil. Look at how important is saying this. When the medicine is no longer important right now because the nature is no longer important, who takes the blame? The devil. The devil is the new avatar of nature. It's very fucked up. Well, sorry for the word. What happened? When the church decides to discard the ointment, then the scientists come. Because we're entering the illustration, so we need rational explanations to everything. So after 1550, a guy called Andrés de Laguna, this guy over here, who rewrote the full Dioscorides, which is the most important work in herbalism since antiquity. He rewrote this. He decided to make experiment. Because when he was working at the court of the king, of the Duke Francis of Lorraine, during the mid-16th century, 2 people accused of being sorcerers were tried and executed. He was there, he saw it, and he saw that these guys had like a green ointment in their cave. And he took the green ointment, okay? So it was green and everything, and he said, okay, this looks a bit like an ointment I know, which is called the unguento populeon, which is a very deep narcotic. Okay, it's a recipe you can find everywhere, if you look properly. Okay, so it's made with poppies, with mandrake, belladonna, henbane, poplar, pig fat, etc. You make this. This exists since the late antiquity, in Roman times. You make this and you apply it in the area, and it's anesthetic, okay? So he said, okay, this looks a lot like this, so I'm going to make one of these. I'm not going to use this one. And I'm going to take the wife of the local executioner. Come here, lady. Okay. And I will just bat the girl in this, like, anoint her, like, so hard, okay? The girl, the woman, just fell asleep for 36 hours. And when she came back from the sleep, she said, oh, why did you wake me? Because I was having like a super party and there were like handsome men everywhere, and I'm so pissed off right now. I just want to go back to sleep again. And she was really pissed off. So this doctor said, oh yeah, now I understand everything. So the flight to the Sabbath, all this thing about out-of-body experiences and everything, is just an hallucination from the nightshade family ointments. And this is what we still say now. This is very hardcore rationalistic approach to witchcraft. It's like, yes, everything has an explanation. No. Things don't have to have an explanation. We are still doing the same thing that the prosecutors did, you know. It's very cool, but very fucked up. You know, I'm finishing. Since physicians and doctors gave a rational explanation to the ointment, we try to give a rational explanation to witchcraft, okay? Nowadays, if I say no, it's all devil possession and devil lies and the devil cheated me and he took me to the Sabbath, it's like, oh my God, how can you believe this? You're so primitive. But if I say, no, yeah, I was super high on Solanaceae plants and then I saw the devil, it's like, oh yeah, it makes total sense. But we need this explanation. It's like, yeah, oh, this makes me feel so secure that this cannot happen to me where I'm asleep. But maybe this can happen to you when you're asleep, because most of experiences, transgression experiences, out-of-body experiences are not voluntary. People had this problem. They still do. Some people in some cultures regard it as shamanism. Some peoples in some cultures regard it as possession. Some peoples in some cultures say this is a werewolf. Some people say this is a witch. And this is a normal thing. Not for this world where we try to have like a logical, rational explanation to everything, but yes, in that world where magic still lived, okay, where magic in the sense of the unexplainable still lived. The problem here, as I said, when you say all this, when you start trying to rationalize witchcraft, you end up saying that all witchcraft, evil spirits, you know, all who believe in these things, how can you believe in these things? You're superstitious. In the beginning, superstitious was a bad thing. But now, when I say that my grandma is very superstitious, it's like, okay, when the salt is on the table, she does this. She's superstitious, you know, she believes in stupid things. Nowadays, we regard day-to-day magic, contact with spirits, the power of the other world as something very stupid. Very fun. We still do this. We still do the same. Okay, wait a minute. Okay. I don't know, where am I now? Okay, this is the problem here. This all converges in what we think nowadays. The ancient notion of pharmacon, we still can imagine a notion of a drug that kills and heals and enlightens you. We still think about entheogens, and we need entheogens in the Western Europe because we have to go and find ayahuasca, whatever, when we have something here. The idea of heresy, again, and the idea of scientific skepticism, like everything has a rational explanation. People tend to think that they fly because they were high on alkaloids or something. It's what we nowadays think. We are inheritance of all these ideas together. And it's very difficult to find when one starts and the other one finishes. And you don't know. You feel there is something inside, like there is a possible explanation, but the only possible explanation is experience. Sorry to break it down for you like this. So, there is a problem here, and is that nowadays we are in an anti-drug society. I don't say that, even if in mysticism, religion, paganism, there is an anti-drug propaganda, an anti-entheogen propaganda, because the pharmacos is not controllable. This guy over here, Mircea Eliade, which I'm sure most of you will be familiar with. This guy wrote a lot of things about shamanism, and he was never in a contact with a shaman tribe. True story. Said the following thing. Intoxication should be dismissed as a vulgar substitute for a pure experience. The use of intoxicants is a recent innovation and points to the decadence in shamanic technique. Okay, so this guy says something that makes sense, because shamanic technique is not only based on taking drugs, because you have to believe in the framework, you have to believe in the spirit world in order to transgress to the spirit world. If not, it's just nonsense. But at the same time, he's like, okay, you cannot use drugs because, you know, it's bad, it helps you, and it's not okay. This is a very rationalistic approach. We cannot escape this kind of thing. Then, I suppose that that there is like one approach still, and then is the other approach. The first approach to the pharmacos, the metzina, is the one that is held in the Pyrenees right now. The healer and the poisoner, okay, the plants that heal and the plants that kill are something that the curanderos, the healers, know, the folk healers, it's okay. The guaridors, okay, herbalism, this is okay. But the idea of something that aids you in transgression, it's still very problematic for us because we are an anti-drug culture. This is why I try to make this big difference between witchcraft and Metzineria. Metzineria needs of the heal and kill and intoxicate, and witchcraft doesn't need anything of this, but can use it, okay, to just maximize some experiences. Also, the knowledge of plants in the rural communities nowadays is is the same. I mean, you touch rosemary, you touch thyme, but this plant, ooh, it's very strange, don't touch it, it's bad. In fact, there is a legend there that says that a fairy was living in a house. There was a house that had a fairy. He was like a housewife, like there, cleaning the kitchen. And one day, the owner of the house was beating the fairy, you know, and she was like, okay, I will escape. And she escaped, and when she was escaping, she was said, I will never tell you what the root of the Roma is good for. Roma, Rumex something, Rumex longifolius is a wild plant that people use, the leaves, but nobody knows what the root is good for. Okay, so only fairies, only people from other worlds can understand the mysteries of plants still. We keep to the safe thing, this kills, this heals, it's okay, but I think it's now our turn to do the other experimentation. Because it's just what I said here, no? The medicine, the mezzina is this threefold mystery. You have the medicine that heals, the poison that kills, but there is also the intoxication, the hands of the gods and the gift of the devil. But this one, it's not spoken of. This is like something that you guys have to do. And tell me your experiences when you have. I think it's a very, people will say, hey, but you have no books about the usage of entheogens in Western Europe or everything. It's like, no, but you have a forest down there, you just go. No, this is like the most encouraging situation ever, because it's a tabula rasa. You can do whatever you want, no? Everything is possible. Everything can intoxicate you, from rosemary to a beer to sugar. Everything is possible, is a possible mezzina. Emotions are as well. Maybe it's now the time to understand this way of giving it back together, putting all three together, all the masks of the mezzina. So well, that's it. Thank you for listening to me. If you have any questions. Thank you. If you have any questions, or is it super late? I don't know.